and welcome to Piano Teaching Success Q&A. I'm Gillian Erskine, and together with my colleague Paul Myatt, we've created this program so you can get answers to your questions. We're so excited to be here today with our lovely guests, and if you're watching us live, let us know where you're from in the chat. So the chat is just down the bottom of your page. If you click the button chat, and then you can let us know in the chat box to the right. Well, I'm so excited to introduce our panel for today. Dennis Alexander joins us from New Mexico in the States, and I just know you're going to love meeting Dennis. Dennis is known around the world as a composer arranger with Alfred Publishing and has had a long career as a popular clinician at conventions and conferences. It's no surprise that in 2015 his work was recognized with a Lifetime Achievement Award. Dennis has taught at university level, and these days he lives and works in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And yes, he's teaching a few students online, which Dennis is going to tell us all about later. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you so much, Gillian. It's so wonderful to be here and to share this presentation with you and all of the teachers who might be listening, as well as my wonderful guest or my colleague panelists who are with us tonight. So thank you.
Our pleasure. Yolanda Freiling joins us from Brisbane, Australia. Yolanda is a piano teacher, accompanist, examiner, and the current president of the Queensland Music Teachers Association. Yolanda is passionate about teaching piano to all levels and styles, especially loves teaching young beginners in many modalities. So Yolanda held the position of head of teach training and development at Forte School of Music for many years. We're trying to figure out how many years that was before Yolanda. Oh, and we're going to see Yolanda in action later in the show. Welcome, Yolanda.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Terrific. Michael Power joins us from Tasmania in Australia, and that's that little island off the bottom of the mainland where he's recently moved to. Michael is a collaborative pianist and teacher. Michael has studied chamber music and piano accompaniment in Australia and Europe, and has held positions with the New South Wales Music Teachers Association. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Terrific. Well, like we do each week, we're going to go and kick off today's show by visiting everybody in their studios. And so we can see their setup, and you might like to ask a question or two. So let's start with Dennis Alexander. Dennis, can you walk us through your setup and tell us about your teaching?
Okay, I teach in my office where I have a CVP Clavinova 709, which I absolutely love. I have actually convinced some of my adult students to get a Clavinova, and 4 of them now have a wonderful Clavinova in their home. So it makes it really delightful to be able to not only help them learn the instrument, but to be able to use all of the wonderful functions of the Clavinova when they're either taking a lesson in person or, as we've been doing online a lot for the last 3 months.
Yeah, that's terrific. And this is where, oh, here we've got a map. So we can see where Dennis lives, which is that little red dot in New Mexico, which is Albuquerque, New Mexico. So how many students do you teach, Dennis?
I am currently working with 8 adult students. 4 of them are elementary levels. I've started all of them from scratch.
Wow.
And we're all using our Alfred's Premier Piano course, the Premier Express series, which works beautifully for adult students. And we're just having lots and lots of fun. 3 or 4 of them are also more advanced students, and I teach them on Yamaha Avant Grand, which I have in the other part of the house.
Oh.
So I use both instruments in my teaching. I have never had so few students. I've always taught my entire life, even though I am primarily a composer, but I love teaching more than anything. I kind of think of myself as primarily a teacher who just happens to write a lot of music.
And are you teaching online at the moment, or a mixture?
Yes, I am. We've been doing online lessons for the last about 3 months now.
Mm.
And I use, for most of my students, Facebook or FaceTime. The app. It seems to work pretty well for most of them. I have used Zoom as well, but most of my students end up preferring either FaceTime or sometimes Skype, but mostly FaceTime.
Sometimes you have to be flexible depending on what's got lag and which one's working better one day or not.
Exactly.
And with the Clavinova, so there is a functionality that you can set it up so that it can play, I don't know, what they're playing can play on yours or something, right? Have you done that function with your students?
What we do mostly, I make sure they understand how the MIDI accompaniments functions work, how they can, one of the nicest features with the MIDI on the Clavinova is that they can turn off the background or the band, so to speak, and hear just the piano part. They can hear just the left hand, or they can hear just the right hand. They can practice it at any tempo they choose. And it's just a really wonderful device for helping them to improve their rhythmical accuracy.
Yeah.
And they're just learning really how to listen. I often, for pieces that don't have MIDI accompaniments, I will record on my Clavinova the piece that they might be working on, and I'll do it in right hand and left hand separate tracks. And then I can send that to them over the internet, and they get that instantly and just download it to their flash drive and put it in their Clavinova, and it works so beautifully. It's just a fantastic tool, I think, for teaching. And then I'm also teaching some of the students how to do chording with the style accompaniments. So they learn how to play chords in different inversions, and they can recognize a lead sheet now, and really enjoy some of the wonderful functions of the Clavinova, where they hear the wonderful different styles that are so available and so many to choose from.
Yeah.
And that really, I think, is just a great advantage for the students really as well.
Helps make it interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah. Most of my adults are, they're playing for pleasure. Yes. They want to have fun playing the piano. Some of them are more interested in classical. Some of them are more interested in pop or jazz. So I really enjoy the variety of the students that I work with.
Terrific. That's great. Yolanda, let's visit your studio. Can you tell us about your journey to online teaching? Were you doing this before, or were you just brand new to it like everybody?
No, I was brand new. I had never taught online before. So the first thing I did was jump on Facebook and read as much information as I could from all the pages and learn as much as I could. And then the first thing I did was invest in a new computer because I needed a computer. So, that's my setup there. So that's from the back. So the other one was, you can see I've got my computer set up. There's an iPad there, which I usually have the practice sheets. I can see what they're supposed to be doing. I've got a little microphone there. I also went out and bought a cable so that I was not using Wi-Fi. I was attached to the modem.
Yeah.
Nice long cable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a fairly simple setup. I do use my phone as a second camera sometimes. If I'm using Zoom, you can see a little attachment there that it clips onto the music stand there. And there's a few friends. I do like the colour purple.
I know that. I was going to mention that. Oh, there's purple there. What a surprise.
Oh, that's just pictures of all my students from concerts, previous concerts. there
And
on the
where's
wall
that,
there.
there's that keyboard thing you do when they practice and they move up the keyboard. Where
Oh
is
yes, charts and little things like that. I do have another digital piano. You can't see it there. I use it mainly for drum tracks if I need to put a beat on. Sometimes it's a bit more interesting than a metronome. But it's a fairly small space, but there's still plenty of room for dancing.
Good. We're going to see that later a little bit. Michael, let's look at your studio and let's look at where you live, because not everybody knows where Tasmania is.
No, that's right. We're a tiny little, well, a fairly small little island at the bottom of the country. So I recently moved here earlier this year, back in early February, and so it was an interesting time because I had pretty much said goodbye to most of my students who had been teaching in Newcastle for the past, I'd been in Newcastle for 17 years, and then when kind of COVID hit, there was this kind of a few students, both adult and school-age students, had kind of reached out and suggested, rather than going to a new teacher, maybe we could continue online for a little bit. So I actually continued some of my students from New South Wales via Zoom, and then through the Music Teachers Association down here, I was linked up with a few new students who I also taught online, but I had met over my front fence in person. So,
well, that's nice. It's a nice studio there. I like the painting in the background.
oh, thank you. Yeah, it's it's an Australian work, but I've got to admit it's a print. So, and I have my comfy chair that the kids like to sit on. They've got the choice of a couple of different chairs, and you can see actually that keyboard there was I'm using to teach my 4.5-year-old son. And I'm quite sentimental, so it's my keyboard back from 1990 that I received from Santa. It was one of the first instruments that I began.
Really? Well, that's
So,
done you well.
yeah, it made it across the Bass Strait.
Oh, that's lovely. Well, let's move on to some questions for today. We've got one from Nicholas Stanford, who lives in Sydney, who asks, when are you returning to face-to-face teaching? Well, this is a really different question because the world is in so many different stages of recovery or not recovery. So, Dennis, what about you? Because the States is not really in, it's all, that's quite varied too, isn't it? Various different states.
Well, in parts in the United States, of course, a lot of states are having a terrible time with COVID. But very luckily in New Mexico, we are really doing very, very well, and our rate has gone way down. So at this point, I'm actually considering next month going back to person-to-person lessons. I'm leaving it up to my students.
Yes.
Several have said that they would love to get back one-on-one in-person lessons, and some of them have said that they would, be happy to wear a mask. I have hand sanitizer here in the studio. I would wipe down the keys between each lesson and be very, very careful. But I feel that at this particular stage, I could get back to actual one-on-one lessons in person by next month.
Terrific.
Yeah.
That's
and I'm looking forward to it.
I think a lot of people are.
Yeah.
And I think the whole, the world is becoming a much cleaner place with hand sanitizer and all this kind of stuff as just becoming part of our lives.
Yes.
Michael, what about you? Are you back to face or?
Yeah, so I essentially said goodbye to my New South Wales students, and they've moved on to their new teachers. As for, I've only have probably half a dozen students at the moment in Tasmania, being so new here. But I'm of the opinion and that everyone has to kind of assess their own situation based upon their geographical location. So Tasmania, we have 0 cases at the moment. Our borders are relatively closed. So it's, the risk is low in that sense. In terms of age demographic and so forth, my students and myself, when not in that high risk category, and equally their health. None of my students have suggested that they suffer from any particular health strands that would put them at risk. Mm-hmm. So as a result, I've actually gone back to face-to-face teaching already, just in the last few weeks, and I'm glad for it. As Dennis has said, too, really nice to have that contact. I mean, you do what you need to do in your lessons to ensure that you're always minimising the risk with hand sanitizer and so forth. But certainly in my context, we kind of assessed together as student and teachers that that was safe enough for now anyway.
Yes, and we've got a lot of people in chat sort of saying they're either going back next term. Karen Easton's back teaching. She's in Queensland and she's back teaching all of the normal students that would teach face-to-face, and then only the ones that she does teach is online. Yolanda?
Yes, all my home students have gone back to face-to-face. We're fairly low risk, I should say, in Brisbane as well. So when the schools went back, I think it was week 6, I went back to face-to-face teaching, except for I do teach at a little school where they're not letting the specialist teachers back yet. So I had to find homes for 10 students online. So I'm still currently teaching 10 students online, as well as my home students. And of course, hand sanitizer, cleaning the piano, keeping your distance when you can. So, like everyone.
Yeah, that's good. Well, over the past few weeks, we've been asking everybody what their greatest challenge is in teaching piano. And Joanne Lau's greatest challenge, like many of us, is teaching in a fun and interesting way. So this can even be more difficult if you're teaching online, as you don't have access to the same types of resources, games, or activities that you would perhaps do in a face-to-face lesson. So recently I was on a QMTA webinar where Yolanda was doing a comparison teaching demonstration, and I thought these would be great for this show and that you might like to see them. So let's watch the beginning of a lesson and see what, let's call her Miss Dontbee, does to kick off a lesson with her student.
Come on, time to start. Kerry, come on. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I just had to make a coffee.
That's okay. I was making up a song.
Yeah, I don't think that was on your practice list, though.
Oh, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, well, we might have time for that later. We're going to do a new song now. Can you grab your book?
Okay.
That's not your book. That's your sister's book. That's your sister's book. No, hang on, I'll get mine. It's the primer one, primer lessons.
Joanne.
Yes, that one. All right, now we're going to do a new song called Dance Band. Can you find Dance Band? Oh, come on, Kerry, it's on page 48. 48.
Well, let's just go on and see what Miss Doobee, let's call her Miss Doobee, and how she handled the same lesson.
Hi, Kerry. Hello.
Hi, Yolanda.
Have your hands. Wave your hands. Copy me. Close them. Open. Close them. In your lap. And how are you today? You well?
Yeah, I'm good. It's my birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday for tomorrow. That's exciting.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to learn a new piece today. So I'd like you, I've got mine here. Can you find your book that looks like this?
Yeah.
Oh, great. All right. Now we're going to find a piece. Now I think your book's a bit different to mine by the look of it. So now my piece is on page 48, but I think yours might be different. So remember last week we learnt this one, Mr. Bluebird?
Yep.
Can you find the piece after that one? The next one. What's that one called?
Yep. The Dance Band.
Dance Band. You're going to love this piece.
Yolanda, what points were you hoping to convey here?
Oh, well, as well as trying to be entertaining, Kerry Beaumont, she's the teacher who was role-playing the student. We decided to just have a bit of fun and demonstrate some things that might not go so well and some things that could go well. So I guess what I was trying to demonstrate was, if you know ahead of time what might go wrong, like they might have the wrong book or they might have the wrong hand or things like that. So just preempting that, being proactive. So using visuals straight up, less words, more show and tell, being kind, being prepared.
Yes, organised would seem to be a really big one.
Engaging with the student. So, and showing the student that you really want to be there with them.
That's right. And sometimes we think, oh, I think you just used so many words and you weren't the first. Miss Dontbee was a bit disorganised. She didn't have the book ready. She had to go and find it from somewhere else and come back and yes. So
and
that
there was a few other things I threw in there. I don't know if you picked them up, sort of casual attire and.
I did pick up like the picture on the back wall.
Oh yes, a crooked picture and things like that. So yes, we tried to put in a few extras there.
Yes, and then of course on the Miss Doobee had the third screen of the overhead camera as well.
Yeah.
So there's a few extra things. Well, let's move on to the lessons. Onto the lesson where Miss Dontbee is teaching a new piece.
All right, so we're going to learn this one. All right. So have a look at your book. We're going to let's see. Can you point to the C? What are you pointing to? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that middle C. So we'll have a go at playing that bit. So put your thumb on C. Finger C. Okay, I think that's your left hand, Kerry. Change your hands. Change. That's it. Okay. That's not middle C. Middle C is this one. This one here.
What one?
Oh, sorry. There you go.
I can't see.
Very funny. Very funny. Middle C. You know where middle C is. Play middle C. That's it. That's it. All right. So let's play from the beginning there. What have you got? C, and then what's next?
C, 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 D, E, F.
Yeah. Okay. Play that. Okay. We just need to use the right fingers, Dal. Okay. So put your thumb on C. Right hand. Thumb on C. Right hand. Not your left. That hand. Yeah. Thumb on C. That's it. Now. Okay, now like this. Here, have a look. Put your thumb on C. Do that. No, nice hand. You know, curve fingers. Curve your fingers. That's it. I'm just doing that so you can see what finger I'm using. Now, finger number 2 on D. And then finger number?
3, the root finger.
Sure. Okay, number 3, the rude finger on E. And 4 on F. All right, now, play what's written. Okay, now we're going to add the left hand as well. So put your left hand up on, what's the first note for the left hand there?
A D.
Well, I will say that we have, just so that to actually make it easier for the time constraints we have in the show, we have actually quickened, make that quicker than what it is. So it is, Yolanda didn't speak as quickly as that in the in her lesson with the student.
Did make it funnier though.
Yeah, I guess it did. Let's move on to Miss Doobee. And again, in the chat, tell us what you do like about Miss Doobee.
Now, you haven't heard this before, so I'm going to play it for you. And I'd like you to watch my hands on the piano. And you can watch, actually, you can watch either screen. It doesn't really matter. It's only a short one. Can you hear that? It's a great one. Could you hear all the instruments in there? They're a band that play for a dance. So we're going to do some dancing to learn the rhythm today. Can you see me back here?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be your, just going to copy me, okay? So can you tap your knees 2 times? Great. And then we're going to clap our hands. But have a listen to the words. People dancing all around. Your turn.
People dancing all around.
Nice singing. Here's the next bit. Same actions, different words. Clapping to the big band sound. Lovely. Now, I know there's a lot of words there, but you try your best. We're going to try and sing all of those with the music. The first one was people dancing all around. Try your best. Got your hands ready? Ready, people? People dancing all around. Lovely. I could see you got most of the words that time. Very good. Now, I'd like you to have a look at your music and see if you can find treble clef. Can you point to your treble clef, the first one on your book? That's it. And then next to the treble clef, there's a couple of notes that look a bit like mine. Do you know what I've drawn there? You know that note.
It's middle C.
Middle C. Now, you know how to find middle C on your piano. It's the one near the words on your piano there, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one we're using. That's right. Now, wiggle your thumb. That's finger number 1. Can you put that number 1 on C? That's it. Now, that's the first note. Now, with your other hand, can you point to the book and tell yourself what those notes are? You've got C, C, and then what?
D, E, F.
So can you play C, C, D, E, F? Your turn. Good, and you automatically use the right fingers too. That's very good, Kerry. All right, now I'm going to play the left-hand part, and you're going to play the right-hand part. Now, have you got a pencil there?
Yeah.
Let's put a circle around those 5 notes that you just played. C, C, D, E, F. Can you see those 5 notes again on the page somewhere? Let's put a circle around those ones.
At the end.
Yep. Any more on that page? All right. So I get the first 2 notes. My turn. Your turn. My turn. Your turn. Oh, so good, Kerry. We're going to do it one more time with the music. I'll put the slower one on, seeing it's a new song. Get ready. Thumb on C. Go. C, C, D, E, F. Go. C, C, F. Oh, give yourself a pat on the back. Or a clap. Excellent work.
Thanks, Yolanda.
So I'm going to write that on your practice sheet to practice the right-hand part that you circled on your page there.
And people in the chat did pick up. Yes, we did. We've actually fastened all of these up the same amount, 125%, up to 25%. Dennis, what were your favourite things that Miss Doobee did?
When I'm teaching my adult students online, of course, now I don't have that overhead camera that shows the keyboard. I sometimes wish I did, but since I only have 3 or 4 elementary students who might benefit from that, I have this little device, which is a very handy little keyboard. And I get this from a company called eznotes.com. Lucy Chu is the founder of that company, and she creates these wonderful tools. And I use this a lot with certain students if they need to see how to position their hand for a C major chord or a different type of chord inversions. If we're talking about intervals, I can show them on the keyboard, on screen, what they need to look for on their keyboard. So I love that particular tool. And of course, I mentioned already how I use the Clavinova for things. If I have students who do not have a digital piano, where they don't have access to playing MIDI, there is a fabulous app that I use, and it's called Anytune, and they can load into Anytune an MP3 file that I can create on my Clavinova and then email to them, and they can practice with that particular app, slow it down to any tempo they need, and it's just a fantastic teaching tool, which I really love. And one of the other main things that I use a lot in my teaching is an app on the iPad, and it's called Rhythm Lab. And it is absolutely, I require every student to have it, because they can tap two-hand rhythms or one-hand rhythms,
Mm-hmm.
instant feedback. There's an unlimited number of examples of rhythms at all different levels. So my first-rate beginners can use it, or my advanced students can also use it.
Mm.
And so I use those kinds of things a lot in my
Yeah.
teaching. Really enhance, yes.
Props are great to use in the teaching. And we have our teacher resource kit, which we'll tell you about later, which we do have those keyboards in that people can make at home. We unfortunately don't have, and there's other keyboards that you guys in the States have access to as well that are three-dimensional. We don't have them here, so we have to just do the print it out and laminate it ourselves trick. But they are so useful, especially for online teaching. Michael.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, I do think that one of the most important things that any teacher has to have when they're teaching, and I noticed Yolanda doing it so well, we have to have a good sense of humor, especially when we're teaching online, because I think it's somewhat stressful, and sometimes we forget, we don't smile perhaps enough. And we need to really make the students feel extra comfortable when we're doing online teaching.
Yes, and Miss Doobee definitely did that, I think. Miss Dontbee was a little bit hassled. Michael, how about you? What did you notice about Miss Doobee that you liked?
Well, it's no secret that when I saw this film yesterday, I was in hysterics, absolute hysterics, for Miss Dontbee, for starters. But in Miss Doobee, I mean, my comment was, I wish I was a student in Yolanda's lesson, because it was from the very first moment, Yolanda, or as the teacher, had set up the student for success. And, you know, and as Yolanda had said herself, you know, it's all about, I mean, we're all about preparation as teachers. We know that, whether or not it's face-to-face or via video link. But it's a different kind of preparation, I think, via video link, because you're having to preempt perhaps how the student may or may react or interact, or what they may have interpreted your instructions either prior to the lesson or even during the lesson. So I really value that kind of approach, because of, you know, if you don't have relationship one way or another with your student, you lose trust and loyalty and all sorts of things, and they don't feel like you've invested, you know, in their one-to-one time, I suppose. So
that's right. Thank you, Yolanda. Was there anything else that, before I actually want to, I want to say, I've got my little say that I want to say.
Well, you can talk if you like. I guess breaking it down. So I would teach a little bit less online than I would with the students. So if I was teaching that piece live, I probably would have done a little bit more, added the left hand straight away. But because you want, as Michael said, set up for success, you just choose a small section to do. Introduce the song, get them motivated, teach the section by imitation, and then always showing them how it fits in the piece, as well as using, you know, there's the singing and the rhythm part, as well as, and the score, like looking at the notes and circling parts. So I try and include a little bit of everything. I don't teach everything that way, but a lot of the pieces for the young beginners, I would teach that approach.
Absolutely. So when I saw this video, this is just, this is the way we always taught at Forte, in the process being model performance with singing and lots of eye contact, imitation singing and movement. So the combined movement, and the movement represented the shape or the teaching points of the music, with the knees being the left hand and the clapping being the right hand. And you encourage the student to sing. Singing and movement with the backing track, use good cueing and eye contact. And by now the student has heard that piece 3 times. So then you introduce the reading at a level that the student could cope with. You didn't present the 30-foot cliff of, here's the music, open up to the page, now what's the first note? You can't play this piece until you can read it. You definitely just looked at, you used a prop to make it easy with the stave and pointed out that. The prop was in easy reach, which is so important when teaching online. The finger prep, you used a step-by-step approach to get the right hand. So, you know, show me your right hand, shake your little finger, now put it on the note. So there wasn't any chance of getting that wrong, which Miss Dontbee was struggling to get it in the right hand. And
so many students have trouble with left and right, and it can be
yes.
tricky online.
And you set up for success. Show me your right hand. Now wiggle a finger, thumb. Yeah, so that was so good. And then you taught the fragment. So you imitation playing of the fragment, just one fragment. You identified the repeated, this is a fragment that was a repeated fragment throughout the piece. And then you had her physically to actually visually see that fragment in the piece and circle it so she could, it really popped out and came to her attention and just makes the music. She thinks, well, I can do all of those bits now. There's only those other little bits that I can't do. So it made the music much more digestible. And you play the fragment within the whole by using the backing track and cueing the student in. So you set them up for success by cueing them in. And the 3 principles of teaching, which is one thing at a time, from the known to the unknown, and teach the part within the whole, were all covered within that. And then at the end, of course, you celebrated success with physical actions like clapping, patting on the back or clapping your hands and your thumbs up. And you smiled. And so everything Miss Doobee did was designed to set the student up for success. And kids love practicing what they can do. They hate practicing things they can't do. So this certainly led up to a week of practice of your student going home and practicing.
Well, especially at that level, because they've only really been learning for not even 6 months at that level. So you really want to make sure they can do it before they go home. Yeah. And teaching online is a little bit like being on TV, like they're looking at a screen. So you do need to sort of ham it up a little bit and smile a lot at them.
Yeah, that's terrific. To be commended. Yolanda used backing tracks to teach that piece. And as you can see, it brought the music to life and created context. And we've heard Dennis also talk about how much he loves using backing tracks in his lessons. So when you use backing tracks, a whole world of fragment teaching, which Yolanda demonstrated, is possible. She ditched the traditional approach of play the right hand, play the left hand, now let's play it together, and took on a whole new creative teaching approach. We use this approach in 4-day courses, and we've found that fragment teaching, we're doing it for 26 years, really helps children digest the music, see the patterns, memorize easily because they can see the patterns, and they need to listen to the track and come in at the right time. So they're already listening to what they're doing, and they're listening and becoming developing collaborative playing skills, which I know Michael are very keen on yourself. And they learn the part within the whole. And it's only possible to do this when you're doing backing tracks, because otherwise it's not contextualized if you're just teaching a fragment without a backing track. So we found that even boring things like scales can be fun with backing tracks. And we know that all kids need to practice scales. And we also know that almost nobody ever does, including myself when I was a kid. I never practiced scales much. So a couple of years ago, we decided to create a solution to help piano teachers with scales. And here's Paul to tell you all about it.
Discover just how much fun it is to play scales with great sounding, adjustable speed backing tracks. It's fun for you and it's fun for your students. All the scales and technical work for an exam in one easy to access place. No apps, no software updates. It just works on any device, including computers. This integrated learning program also includes PDFs for our popular Fast Track Scale Kits, which are jammed packed with sheet music, graphical scales, flashcards, origami scale pockets, and of course your exam scale success chart. This integrated program helps you and your students achieve piano exam success. Choose your syllabus from ABRSM, Trinity College, AMEB Comprehensive or Piano for Leisure, ANSCA, and Canada's Royal Conservatory. Choose yours now.
So Practice Buddy is available from Piano Teaching Success, and student passes. It's a dual solution. So teachers can use it in their lessons, and the students have a student pass for whatever grade. Like grade 1 has everything they need to do in grade 1, all under one little student pass. That's fantastic. Well, we like to bring panelists and segments on future shows to help you with the challenges you're facing in your piano teaching. So we would love to have your answer to this question. When it comes to piano, teaching piano, what is your greatest challenge? So if you're watching us live, can you just type your answer in the chat, please? So the question once again is, when it comes to teaching piano, what is your greatest challenge?
Gillian and I have added to the Teacher Resource Kit again. This week we have a keyboard chart that comes with all these cute tabs. This is great for online lessons and face-to-face lessons. There's a keyboard and these cute tabs to put on the keyboard. Just print the pages out from the PDF in colour, laminate them, and there's only one fiddly bit, which is cutting up the keyboard chart tabs. You could put Velcro on the tabs and the keyboard, or I just used blue tack. Then you can use them in your lessons just like this.
What's that? It's a dog. D for dog. There we go. And it's a B. A B. There we go. And let's have a look. Ah, E lives right on the bottom line. Have a look.
If you're already a member, just log in or register at pianoteachingsuccess.com.
So the Teacher Resource Kit is free, and we'll have the link to that in the show notes. So Dennis, you were on the writing team for Alfred's Premier Piano course. So let's hear, Paul had a little chat with Dennis during the week. So let's hear Paul speaking to Dennis about his work on this series.
Dennis Alexander, so lovely to see you again. And I know you've been really busy writing lots of music. And so one of the courses that I saw recently is Premier Piano Express. So
Correct.
Tell me about that.
It's a wonderful series. It's been very, very popular here in the States in the last several years. We started this particular course because we had so many requests from teachers who were loving the children's Alfred's Premier Piano course that we did a number of years ago. And teachers were wanting something that they might be able to use with teenage students, or maybe their younger students who moved along very, very quickly, who didn't need as much reinforcement, or for adult beginners. So that was really the main reason why we came out with the Express all-in-one accelerated course.
And it also has backing tracks. I love backing tracks because it's a really great way to get kids to use their ears and to introduce the music. So you've done backing tracks for up to the first 3 books?
Yes, we have the first 3 books, books 1, 2, and 3, all have MIDI accompaniments, which are contained on the CD-ROMs that accompany each book. It really helps the rhythm, especially.
Oh, doesn't it? I always find with kids that learn from backing tracks, they're just so much more musical. Well, let's have a listen to one of those and this one's called Jazzy Tocatina. And what book's that from, Dennis?
Book 2.
That sounds like great fun, Dennis. The accompaniment, I really like the, sort of the left-hand melody with the, I think, is it a trombone sound or something like that? So they're really understanding a little bit of orchestration as well. What would you say the learning points were from that song?
Well, we want our students to learn to play all over the instrument. And this is a course that emphasizes actually a lot of left hand, improving left hand technique, improving reading skills in the left hand. So you'll find lots of pieces in this series that have left hand melodies and so students learn to not only get a good balance between, say, a melody in the left hand, but a right hand accompaniment, and of course, vice versa.
Now we've got one more piece from book 4. It's called Festival Fantastico. What are the learning opportunities in this one?
This is one of those pieces that I call a ta-da piece. Students always love these kind of showy festival, concert, recital types of pieces. So it's one of those pieces that I think so many teachers love because it makes their students sound better than they might even be.
We always love pieces like that one, don't we? Let's have a listen. Wow, that was fantastic, Dennis. I would love my students to be able to play that. In fact, I might even look at that book for some of my students coming up to the end of year recital. And you've got a little special gift for all of our viewers today, which is called 4th Street Rag. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct.
And not only have we got the music, but we've also got the backing track. And so people will be able to get that from the notes. So we're going to play out with a little bit of 4th Street Rag.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you can see, that was just a snippet of the interview that Paul did with Dennis. And so you can see the whole interview on our show notes page. And I've been watching the chat, Dennis, and you've got quite a lot of fans out there, including Sharon, who loves your work and loves the fact that the backing tracks that are at a good speed and there's equal attention to right hand and left hand playing. And we also had a question from Karen who said, Dennis, do you use the Express series with your adult students?
Yes, I have found that the Premier Express series works so beautifully for my adult students. Over the years, I have taught all levels and ages of students. And of course, when I was at the university, most of my students were piano performance majors. And then when I left there in '96 and moved to California, I had a lot of private students at all different ages. And now in my senior years here, I'm kind of part-time retired. I decided that I would only teach adults because my schedule is somewhat erratic. And I think children really need to have really consistent weekly lessons. And so it made sense for me to work with just adult students. And I've been using the Premier Express series with all of my adult beginners, and they seem to love it. They love the music, and they like the pedagogy. Some of my students learn faster than others, but I find that even for my slowest beginners, the music seems to just really fit them, and they feel very motivated by this.
That's really good, because so many courses for adults use nursery, folk songs, and it's not as motivating as the type of music that you just played. They want something that they are used to hearing.
Well,
because when they go back to folk songs, it often, while they're a very good standard and maybe pedagogically a sound idea, it's kind of not easy to relate to, is it?
Of course, I should mention the other composer for the series is Martha Mier, and a lot of teachers love Martha's music as well.
Yes.
But Martha and I together wrote all of the music in the Premier course, not only for the children, but of course we use that same material for the Express books as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's very fresh. It's very, a lot of it's very contemporary,
yes.
and you'll find just, I think, very attractive music in that whole series. And we now have brand new repertoire books too that correlate with the lesson books that give students even more repertoire to choose from. And of course, in the Premier Children's course, the levels 3, 4, 5, and 6, we have masterwork books that are wonderful to use as extra material if you have students who really want to only work on classical music.
Yes, yes.
There's a lot of
like that.
Yes.
Yeah, terrific. Well, as you saw, Dennis has provided a piece for us today, very generously, to give away to everybody during the show. It's the 4th Street Rag, and the details are in the show notes. So earlier this year, I met Martha Hilly, who is the president of the MTNA, that's the Music Teachers National Association of America. And but for this virus, Paul and I would have been in Chicago for the national convention, which we were very disappointed was cancelled. All of our panelists today are either currently serving on associations or have previously served on associations. And I'd just like to highlight the fabulous job that associations do in bringing music teachers together and organising professional development opportunities. Dennis, you're a big supporter of associations. Can you tell us about your involvement with Music Teachers Associations?
Well, I have always been a member of what's called MTNA, which is Music Teachers National Association. When I lived in Montana, I was there for 24 years, and I was a member all those years. And in fact, I was the state president for a few years in Montana. And when I moved to California, I joined not only the Music Teachers Association of California, which is called MTAC, but I also belonged to the other branch of the teachers in California, which was part of MTNA. And then when I moved to New Mexico, I, of course, joined our local association there, and also still, of course, I'm a member of MTNA. But I just think it's so important for teachers to have this kind of professional interaction. They learn from each other. We have workshops. We have all kinds of wonderful events to attend. They have a chance to hear other teachers' students perform. They get ideas for repertoire. They get ideas for teaching. And to me, it's really an essential aspect, I think, for any teacher who's serious about teaching to belong to a professional organization of some kind.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yolanda, you're the current president of the Queensland MTA. What would you like teachers to know who are thinking about joining an association?
Well, we are there to support teachers, and as well as providing accreditation and professional development and lots of things.
Scalathon?
My head.
You got a scalathon.
Well, I was going to mention that. But I was going to tell you the reason I joined the association, which was about 8 years ago, and that was to connect with people, because when I first, because I used to work for the music school, we had a big connection and we had a lovely supportive environment. So then after I had children and then started working at home, I missed that connection. So as well as wanting to be accredited, I quickly became a member and then got involved with the network groups. So we meet probably about twice a term, people, and we've got a lovely group, and some of us have been coming for all that time and more, and we just learn so much from each other. So that was one aspect.
It can be lonely at home on your own, can't it?
Well, it can be, and I'm a social being, so I like to get out there. And then what I didn't realise is how much goes on in the association, because then the last 2 years I've been involved with council, and it's only been 3 months that I've been, I'm still learning my role as president, but so much goes on. And we meet roughly every month or two to discuss all things to support music teachers. So we're there to help the teachers. We're all volunteers, and that's our main purpose. So we really love members to come and join, and we need them to help the association keep going.
Yeah.
But yes, term 3, we do have a scale-a-thon. You were talking about scales before. So we have this scale. There's great prizes. So a really great way to motivate your students to do their scales. You can set your own goals. It doesn't have to be scales. If they're the young students, it could be little exercises or whatever. You just set your own parameters, and away they go. And then if they get lots of sponsors, then they're eligible for a prize.
Yeah.
So that's
terrific.
one of the things, as well as lots more professional development in the workings. Unfortunately, we had to cancel quite a few things this year because of COVID-19, but
you and everybody else.
Yeah, we're meeting, and we're still, via Zoom, we're still meeting and organising, and
yeah, and you did that professional development webinar that
we've done 3 webinars. We've done 3. First the online, then the pedagogy, and then recently we've had the Taubman one.
Yeah, terrific. So Paul is presenting on whole body learning at the New South Wales MTA conference in January. Michael, you're part of the New South Wales MTA. What benefits have you found in being part of an association for yourself?
Well, so in New South Wales, we have 2 different branches outside of the metropolitan. One is in Newcastle. So when I was a student where I studied in Newcastle, I felt like I gained I had the privilege of accessing the teaching and the scholarships and the performances and everything else as a student rather than as a teacher, first and foremost. And that was really beneficial, I felt, in my learning at the time. And so as a result, once I moved kind of professionally to teaching, I decided to become a member of the Music Teachers Association, and then worked with the team within the Newcastle branch itself. And, as Yolanda says, we're kind of volunteers in this kind of network, and we're all just wanting to make sure that it's a kind of inclusive environment, and that that whether or not you're someone who considers yourself as a student teacher or a first year out teacher or someone who's been teaching for decades, that there's something that each of us can access either within the learning or within working. And I think we've seen a lot of that in this time in COVID. I mean, we've always been of the opinion that because there is so much isolation in our day-to-day work, perhaps, because I think the majority of us, or many of us anyway, work in studios one-to-one. When you do get together with like-minded colleagues and friends, it's your work party, it's your work Christmas party, or it's your end of week drinks or whatever it is. It's those people that you lean on for advice or for suggestions or for a bit of a laugh, or to learn from, and from different experiences that we all have. So as is mentioned a bit earlier, Paul is presenting at the conference, so the New South Wales branch. So I moved from the Newcastle branch as their chair to the vice chair of the state, where I work with a council of people, including our chair Barry Walmsley and our treasurer Annette Brown. And every 2 years, the state puts on a conference, and it's usually in October. But we decided that it A, wasn't good timing, and B, we couldn't, we couldn't travel, or we couldn't work out whether or not there'd be a premise for us to have it at. So we have actually moved it to January 22nd, 23rd, I think it is. It's called inspire2021.com.au. It's over 2 days. It's in Chatswood at the Zenith Theatre, and Paul is one of our major presenters over the 2 days, which is fantastic. I had Paul present in Newcastle for part of a day, and we got some fabulous feedback from that seminar that we ran. So we just felt that it was necessary that the rest of the state, and indeed the country, if they're able to make it, should also benefit from that in something that their Music Teachers Association can put together.
That's terrific. And also Christine Mulhall says that the Queensland Music Teachers Association Sunshine Coast Group is always looking for new members too. I think all of the MTAs are always very welcoming to any new members, and as a very inclusive organisation. So reach out if you haven't done so already. Well, that's all we have time for today, and I'd like to thank Dennis Alexander, Yolanda Freilink and Michael Power for being with us today. As always, you can join our watch list and receive our episodes straight to your inbox, or you can catch the replay on our Facebook group. In 2 weeks' time, we have another amazing panel for you, including Sharon Mark Tegart, who is passionate about changing the status quo in piano teaching and training up the next generation of piano teachers. Together with Sally Cathcart, who we had on the program a couple of weeks ago, Sharon founded the Curious Piano Teachers. Mark Matthews is a composer, piano teacher and radio announcer who lives in Wollongong in Sydney. So Sharon lives in the UK. So we've got a bit of an international panel again next week, in 2 weeks' time. Mark is also a civil engineer, and we might even get to see a bridge that Mark designed. I've asked him for a photo. Lucinda Mackworth-Young, also from the UK, is a lecturer, pianist and piano teacher. And one of her specialties is to teach everyone to play by ear and improvise simultaneously, anytime, anywhere, whatever their musical experience. That sounds like fun. That sounds interesting, and we hope to find more about that next time. We love your questions, so make sure you send one in to us. There are 3 ways to do that. You can send us an email, you can post it in our Facebook group, or you can ask a question on our pianoteachingsuccess.com webpage. I'd like to thank Paul Myatt, who's been producing today's show and is responsible for all the videos and behind the scenes tech. We're going to go out to the music today of Dennis Alexander. On behalf of all of us, stay well, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
We're going to finish today with a piece called Toccata Ritmico by Dennis Alexander. Dennis, great piece. It's also part of the Amy B series 4, Piano for Leisure, and it's in grade 3. And my colleague Susan Head and I were teaching this at the Conservatorium a couple of years ago when Series 4 came out. We did a whole body learning strategy for teaching this song. So we're going to start with the whole body learning strategy and move into Dennis playing the toccata himself. So please enjoy.